Ben ritrovati.
Welcome back. Welcome back to this 11th session on sports as an element of development and reduction of inequalities. We have the pleasure of having with us Mr. Stefano Mossino, lawyer, who is president of the Italian National Olympic Committee for Piedmont region, Mr. Giovanni Gallo, who is member of the Italian National Olympic Committee, and Giulia Pettinau, who is CEO of Orangogo. Stefano Mossino will be the moderator of this session. So, Stefano, you have the floor. Thanks a lot. Good morning, everyone. And thanks to Professor Bianconi. I would like to thank the organizers of Turin Islamic Economic Forum and the speakers for holding this important event, in particular the previous session on sport as an element of development and for reduction of inequalities. So I would like to greet you on behalf of the sports movement, and in particular the Italian National Olympic Committee in Piedmont region, and share with you some assessments in order to share some thought. We know it's a difficult time because for over 20 months we've been living the effects of the pandemic that has a negative effect also on personal relationships and increasing inequalities. And we have to say that also the language that has been used and the decisions to reduce the pandemic, that is the social distancing, also increased inequalities. We should not be talking about social distancing, but physical distancing. And the difference between the two things is fundamental, because the physical distance is a geographical distance, while personal distance is closing a social enclosure. And so never, as in this moment, it's been so important to make a social presence so close, even keeping physical distance. So overcoming these difficulties, sports plays and can play a very important role. In fact, the studies are telling us that sports covers a key role in generating social benefits at individual level and collective level. In particular, a study of Professor Marco Cantoma of Department of Epidemiology at the Royal College of London focuses on the age group of adolescents and found relations between physical inactivity and several emotional and behavioral distresses. So the risk is doubled in terms of depression, of attention disturbances, and a triple risk of addiction and psychosomatic risk, as well as behaviors and that is considered to be antisocial. And this also increases the risk of overweight, of metabolic syndrome and hypertension. Another study on the practice of sport carried out by the Study for the Social Policy for 2018 underlined how those who practice sport outside school are more preserved from certain types of violence, offense, and how sports can really be an occasion for integration. And also the participation in sports activities considered a powerful means of social aggregation and potential, and therefore it is a very important element of inclusion. And therefore sports contributes in a fundamental way to social and economic cohesion and to a more integrated society. Therefore, it was suggested to member states in the European Union to consider sport as a fundamental brick and also for the European Development Regional Fund. So let us not talk only about the benefits of integration, but also of health. So in fact, the lack of physical activity increases the risk of obesity and a series of chronic diseases such as cardiovascular diseases, cancer, diabetes, besides representing physical activities, the fourth most important factor of mortality at the world level. So in a report dating back to 2015, the Center Center for Economy and Business Services estimated that physical activity determines annual saving in healthcare of 1.5 billion euros. And it was calculated that if it was necessary to calculate the reduction of 5% of physical activity, the cost related to the four main typologies of diseases would relate to 400 million euros. So this means that with a reduction of physical activities by 5%, so with an increase of 5% of activity, we would save 400 million euros. So this means that the sports system has the means, the tools, and the instruments in order to manage the criticalities of a modern society and identify the criticalities, and it is the means in order to overcome inequalities. Sports is education. Educational practice teaches how to aim at results, observe the rules, to win together with a team. And it teaches how to be able to lose and to get up after every failure. It is turned into positive energy and to overcome criticalities. But also sports teaches the basic rules of cohesion and society. It teaches that it is necessary to respect adversaries. It is necessary to observe the rules. It is necessary to learn. So learning is important. But also because sports keeps young people away from negative environments. And so they do not remain abandoned to themselves. So Don Bosco also, we are in Turin, and he used activity and physical activity and encouraging sports in order to take young people away from the streets. So sports is not only winning back, but it is like a rebirth, with the possibility of overcoming difficulties and physical and psychological barriers. Sports, therefore, is a huge means of social cohesion. And for overcoming differences, it is essential in order to integrate citizens from different nationalities and cultures. And so in the field, on the starting line, we are all the same. And those who win are those who committed themselves independently from the country of origin and the color of the skin. But there is something else. Sports is a universal code, is a universal language. It is the means in order to have a dialogue also with those who do not want to talk. It is a code to make people communicate that otherwise would have a clash. So it's a very simple code. What is simpler than throwing a ball or running together or jumping together? It's a language that, besides being simple, enables a simple approach, a direct approach with those who would be otherwise distant. So it connects the people who otherwise would be very far away. As CONI, as CONI, in our confederation with all the stakeholders in the sports world, aim at organizing a sports system to promote practice, and we give strength and concreteness to sport. And we do it through territorial projects devoted to young people, where sports is first of all a game that unites and creates social ties, and then becomes a practice that can also lead to excellency and great results. Our projects that are defined as CONI centers involve the young people. They are educational and they are multidisciplinary, and they provide a sports offer to set up a motorian and physical experience. So sports is seen as a game. It's the instrument for the promotion among the young people, and it's a dialogue that is based on a simple language and universal. That is the sports practice. There is no social distances, but on the contrary, it breaks inequalities and distance. So we can also relate to the realities of the territory, because sports becomes an attraction, and every society means social integration, from large societies to smaller societies, because all are essential and they are all part of the sports community. Those who live every day in the sports communities know this aspect, know the importance of sport. But we need to increase the quality in all that. In fact, the social importance and relevance of sport should not only be seen by the voluntary act of private companies and associations, but it should become more important also from the legal standpoint as a collective and individual right. And so therefore the legal entities, the sports associations and the CONI that represent them conjointly and collectively could be heard by the public institutions that need to adopt not only the sports policies but also the health, social and economic policies. And therefore it is necessary for CONI, a subject that jointly represents the interests of the sports system, should be the interlocutor of public entities for the assessment of the policies. In Piedmont, this is already occurring thanks to the constant exchange and dialogue that we have with the regional authorities and the president and spokesman and councillor for sports. But this should also occur at the national level, and we should therefore go beyond these dynamics that have hampered some functions of CONI. So sports is a fundamental right for the individuals, and so sports practice should be recognized as a consistent element of economic, health and social policies. And therefore CONI, that enshrines all the values of sport collectively and jointly, the entire sports system, should be the right interlocutor for the public administration. We want to pursue these objectives because we know the essential values. We know that the values enshrined by the sport, such as cutting down barriers, removing inequalities, and all these social aspects that have not been developed in this session, but also the economic stability of the sports system. So therefore, it is necessary for all stakeholders and institutions to be a part in these and be a large sports community. I will conclude, maybe I was a bit long. I will conclude by reminding you something, that sports is a wonder. We should all create the conditions for this wonder to continue every day and to develop it more and more, so that every individual starting a sports activity, every individual moving from a bench to a sports association is a victory, is a success, it is winning for the entire society. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Mossino, for this touching and punctual presentation of what the theme is. So now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Giovanni Gallo for an international experience that has involved also our country, and it can be really an inspiration for everything that is important for inclusion. Giovanni, you have the floor. Unfortunately, the microphone is turned off, is switched off. We cannot hear you. We'll try again. So it takes to turn on the microphone. Okay, now we can hear you. I would like to thank Professor Biancone, and thanks to him, I would like to thank all the organizer of this important event that recognizes among the panels the important value of the sports activity. Those who are talking before me have already illustrated in a very clear and complete way the reasons why we're here, talking about sports, not starting from large events, but starting from the needs and the rights of citizens, of our citizens. In particular, I would like to focus the attention on a theme. It's already been said earlier, and it's reminded as the inclusive value of sport that enables everyone to know and practice and interact with other people. We never stress enough how this opportunities and this value need to be open also to the world of disabilities. So we remember the world of disabilities and we connect it to sport normally every 4 years when we see after the Summer Olympic Games, the Paralympic Games, where we are always impressed by the great technical quality of the athletes taking part into these competitions. But for all sports world, and the basis of the practitioners, it's the guarantee of the technical success and the real spreading, the real dissemination of the sports world. So, and that's what guarantees the meeting of the social values that have been indicated earlier. So within the initiatives of promotion of the sports practice for all within the world of disabilities, I would like to tell you about a project that is being set up. It was ready to start, but unfortunately it emerged in the years of the pandemic. And if we consider that the territories involved are China and the Arab Emirates, we understand why it was difficult. So we start from a consideration. In China, we have 80 million disabled people. 80 million is a huge number, seen from Italy, seen from the numbers of the Italian population. 80 million disabled means families behind them and with them. So these figures are huge. So these 80 million disabled are not the people attending the Olympic Games, the Paralympic Games, are people that like anybody else are entitled to practice a sports activity that is to be inclusive, fundamental for health, even more so for the health and the well-being of the disabled, and also as an opportunity. I would like to add a concept, and also tourism related to sports. Italy is a country with a huge tourist expectation, but is seen from outside of our country as the nations of the Romance, of the Renaissance, of the monuments and castles. In reality, our country offers a huge number of possibilities for sports tourism in the inland areas, in our mountains. Let us not forget that every 4 years, Winter Olympic Games renew the enthusiasm around winter sports related to winter in our rivers, in our cities. So there are so many opportunities that we're not choose to connect with the motoring and sports activity. We remain stick to two stereotypes, the normal, physically normal sports and the disabled sports. But we should talk about one sport for everybody, for the so-called normal and the disabled. So I will come to the project. Between the Cooperative Tourist Center, which is an entity associating all cooperatives related to the world of tourism, in particular cooperative enterprises related to the territory and therefore to an attentive type of tourism and protection of the environment, attentive to the rights of citizens, attentive to the rights of the citizens in tourist areas. So between this world of enterprises and cooperatives related to tourism in Italy and the entities related to coordination with the family of the Chinese disabled. This is to create the tourist opportunities, and I underline that for the disabled and for the families in our country, outside and besides the normal tourist circuits related to monuments and large events. It's a type of tourism enabling us to get to know our mountains, getting to know our valleys, and enabling us to do winter sports and skiing, also for those who are not Olympic champions, but are approaching this practice as disabled. And also practicing forms of cycling activities. That's a characteristic of the world of the disabilities along pathways and tracks that are made on purpose. These are opportunities that would enable us, on the one hand, to build and grow a sports culture and a culture for this movement, and on the other hand, to offer at the same time to the disabled and their families occasions for accessible tourism. Why are we talking about this today? Because the construction of this project that we are following in China involves Etihad Asia, which is an available carrier to build with us a planning and to customize travel for the disabled and for their families by using as hub the hub of the company, and therefore to have several legs in the journey in order to make this long trip available and doable. So this spurs a reflection. This could be an occasion, on the one hand, to imagine some stopovers and also some legs in this journey for these people traveling from another part of the world to another. And this type of offer of tourism related to sports activity and inclusive activity. On the one hand, these same destinations that are now a stopover point could be places where it is possible to promote and offer this new tourist modality. So it's a type of modality that is related to tourism, but also intimately related to inclusive sports, because inclusive sports is the one for everyone that can be practiced by everybody. And so this sport, if really it does have these characteristics of being followed by everyone, it cannot forget disabilities. And it cannot forget disability relating it to the families of the disabled. So families that through this type of project would have the opportunity to experience the same type of holiday. So this is really equal inclusion on an equal footing, practicing based on one's own possibilities, motory activity, but through a common and shared project. We are working on that. Unfortunately, the pandemic put a halt on the project, and providing movements from one side of the world to another. That is something that has become so complicated. We are now trying to offer these opportunities to Italian citizens, in particular in the Trentino region, in some valleys of Piedmont. And this is a journey that can certainly lead to great growing opportunities, economic opportunities, tourist, and sustainability, and really inclusive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Giovanni Gallo. And now the floor goes to Giulia Pettinao, Sport and Social Inclusion. The floor to you, Giulia. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for listening to me, and I would like to thank the organizers as well. I'm the founder of Orangogo, which is sports research engine, and I would like to use the next few minutes to focus on what a digital platform can do within a panorama which is analyzing social inclusion and its value, and the value that it can create, and the meaning for the society and collectivity. So the role of sport has been fully detailed beforehand. But what I would like to say is, what is Orangogo? It's a platform. Everybody can check by sport and typology of sport, all the different activities, the association, clubs on the territory. And this platform is both in Italian and it can be browsed through foreign browsers. And then we can see the incidence and impact of its use as a first approach to local sports local community. So to carry out this analysis, however, we must first focus on inclusion process and its meaning. Social inclusion is a process in which you improve the conditions thanks to which a specific group can increase their own skills, opportunities, and dignity. I mean, within a society, the society in which they live. So the focus here, the issue of improving the conditions through which a minority may be able to increase their opportunity, skills, and dignity. So here, this is connected to the importance of two different factors. If we must improve conditions, there are two elements to be taken into consideration. First of all, the tool, the sports tool, to improve conditions. That is to say, we can act on sports and on other elements at policy levels. However, we can do that. However, sport as a huge integration tool. Besides what has been said so far, I would like to highlight the transfer aspects. Think of the large relocation businesses in the world. They deal with the relocation of people when they have to move, to commute or to move because of their work. So they offer conventions as well connected to sports activities because sports is the main tool allowing a person, first of all, to make friends, then to get to know local customs and communities. And it also allows to become rooted in the territory. You just think of friends and relatives that went to live abroad, and when they come back to Italy, the first thing they do to feel at home, let's say, they enter a sports gym. This is because this represents a common territory. The world of sports is the largest community of people in the world. A community which means common values, which means persons who have one common value. And the world of sport has indeed common values worldwide. The values are all the same, so we just recognize one another. So when I go abroad, if I want to feel at home, I simply exercise, do sports, and I go to a gym or whatever, because I know that I will be meeting people irrespectively of their culture. I will be meeting people with whom I will have common values more than with respect to other people, local people. So the sports does create rooting possibilities. Then the second element is the role of the digital system. So we improve conditions. We talked about the tool, sport, that creates value, and then there is another tool, which is digital, which creates also value. And the digital has been increasingly used in the past years also at world level, and digital systems allow, with respect to the world of inclusion, a digital world allows for us to get to know about the opportunity offered by the place without having to go to the specific place. So you can get to know the sports you are interested in without necessarily having been there in the new place abroad. So it is a beautiful tool. And also when it's the first time you go to another place, or when you are already doing sports and you want to improve the reality. And it allows you to not to destroy all the language barriers, because all the browsers have translations, and then digital also it's a huge facilitator. So to conclude, on the side of Orangogo, here at Orangogo, we have noticed that even if our website is only in Italian, so far our platform covers the whole of Italy. We are talking about 3,500 Italian comuni and 350 sports clubs. So it does cover a large quantity of the national territory. We noticed that 10% of our traffic in the past year and a half comes from abroad. We are talking about 7.5% English, British English, American English, and then we have French, Spanish, and Slav, these languages. So it is indeed an indicator of the fact that it is available in Italian, but it is indeed used by people looking from Italy, browsing from Italy in a different language than Italian. To promote the integration process, we have developed two tools right now. First of all, we have a back office, and which will be made also available to the audience. So in back office, you can set up your own language, the language which is spoken within your sports association, so that you do not feel isolated due to your lack of knowledge of the Italian language. The second element, and of course this also means working with tourism, talking about sports. This is also with reference to sports practiced mainly by tourists. And then the second element, since we were talking about disabled people, we're not talking about people coming from different cultures. We are talking about people who have specific requirements and who need to find sports structures which may be eligible to offer this kind of service. So we have a distinction among 4 different types of disability, so that each person may be able to find a sports club adjusted to their specific disability, because motor disability will have different requirements from other kind of disability. And this is what we are doing. There are filters to identify the specific requirements. And this is our response, which is, of course, growing very fast. And so these services are going to grow in time from the point of view of being useful to the public, so that we may also be a small brick in the improving process with reference to conditions that allow a minority to increase their skills, opportunities, and dignities within a society. Thank you. Thank you, Giulia, for talking about your experience, which is, again, something which goes bottom up, which is bottom-up, and it is indeed consistent with the subjects we have been dealing with in these 3 days of a Turin Islamic Economic Forum. Now we will be meeting in the next panel, which will continue with the tourism and film industry in a few minutes. See you.